Ah, so you're the great Professor Layton, eh? Mind if I give you a quick puzzle to test your skills?
Not at all, my good sir. I'd be happy to solve your puzzle for you.
I could help too.
Could you just go wait in the car?
But Professor, I'm your assistant.
Go wait in the car!
Hello everyone, welcome to a new podcast here on the IndieCent channel. Or if you're listening to this via MP3, just hello I guess. This is our new anime podcast, the Blind Anime Binge. It will be with myself, Dark, and my friend here, Megan.
Hello!
I decided to do this two-person because it turns out organizing an episode of Heavy Storms was becoming difficult.
Yeah, it's always complicated with people have, like, lives and shit.
And it doesn't help that since we were watching bad anime and Megan picked Celsius, every time I tried to watch it, my brain just was like, you could be playing a video game for money. And the brain was right.
I killed a podcast with shoujo manga. What is my terrible power?
To be fair, I should have specified that we can that the limit of episodes is 13 that we watch. But whatever. Anyways, this should be a more manageable idea, and hopefully we'll actually be able to talk about good things sometimes, the way this is set up, along with an equal case of, getting to watch bad stuff. This is the Blind Anime Binge, and the ideas here is that we go through Crunchyroll's massive catalog, find stuff that we don't really know anything about, and decide to watch it with each of us switching our picks around. Occasionally with guests, I'll figure that out later. I decided to pick what we do is after we pick one out, we watch the first 12 or 13 episodes or the whole series if it's around that length, and then give our thoughts at the end of the podcast. The person who picked it can then decide, do they want to see more of this, and if they do, the other person can vote if they would also like to see more of this in the future, and that will be a reserved possible pick for the original picker in the future. So like my next pick, if we end up picking this particular show to continue, I don't have to continue it next pick if we decide to continue it, but I can do it whenever it's my pick, whenever I feel like it.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, so that way, and I've decided to pick something. I had two shows in mind for this first one, and one of them was Airmaster, which I know nothing about, other than there was like a reference to it in Watamo apparently, but that show referenced a lot of stuff, so yeah. And also, I looked on the Crunchyroll page, and I think it's about sadomasochism?
Okay. Yeah, you picked an interesting one. It's not good. It's not bad. It's unique.
And it makes a lot more sense when you realize this is a Sunrise production. A 2011 Sunrise production for kids. And it was anime original, apparently. That part surprised me.
Yeah, this seems like the sort of thing they'd be trying to tie into like a manga or like a kid's game. Although it's structured like a kid's game anime, but we'll get to that when we get there.
Yeah, we are talking about the first 13 episodes, the first half of Season 1 of Phi-Brain, The Puzzle of God. A 2011 show from Sunrise that when I looked through all the people involved in it on Anime News Network, I was not... Well, there was some surprises, but I became less surprised when I noticed just how many Sunrise credits, how many these people had.
Yeah, Sunrise folks tend to stick together, but no, the surprising thing is, unlike a lot of anime, this is educational. This is legitimately educational. This ran on the educational spin-off of the NHK, which is basically as close to PBS as you can get in Japan. So think of this as like the equivalent of something like Liberty's Kids, or Word Girl.
We should put educational in quotations.
Well, I mean, it's showing off logic puzzles and whatnot. I mean, I can see kind of an educational angle. It's just not as blatant as American examples.
Yeah, we'll get more into it later, but I want to go over the staff for this show real quick. The director was Junichi Sato.
Junichi freaking Sato!
I actually did not know who this is. I didn't know who this was at first until I looked through the credits. Like, oh, so he's worked on Aria, the current season of Precure, Hugato Precure, I think it's called.
Yes.
Kaleido Star.
The first two seasons of Sailor Moon, freaking Princess Tutu, and admittedly, there's some duds in there like Pre-Tier.
Oh no, he actually was the creator of Pre-Tier in general.
Well, I said there are some duds in there, but overall, he's a
no.
good
I don't mean he's just a director. I mean he literally created the entire concept of Pre-Tier.
Oh yeah.
Which surprised me because that is the shoujo series.
That doesn't surprise me when you note from the creator, the guy who directed the first two seasons of Sailor Moon and helped create Princess Tutu.
Well, fair. I actually liked Pre-Tier, and I don't know if I'm in the minority on that opinion.
It's
the one that did, I was not surprised by Sergeant Frog, but I was surprised by two in particular. One was Ojamajo Doreme, comedy. Yeah, that mad, ridiculous comedy anime about the magical girls, where they have all the ridiculous faces. You may have seen, I think it's Nick Kramer from Anime News Network tweeting images of that show from time to time.
Yeah, he's reviewing it on his website.
And the one that instantly caught my attention, the first one I noticed was M3, the Dark Metal. It was a show written by Mari Okada, is that how you pronounce it?
Mari Okada? Oh, Mari Okada, okay, I know what you're talking
about.
Yeah,
and I watched it for a seasonal review way back when, and I got partway through the second season, but eventually tapped out, and it's a very, very weird show that was very slow moving, and I think one of the most atmospheric and disturbing things I've ever seen as far as the first season goes, but in the second season, it's like the evil metal virus is just Ghost.
Okay.
It's Ghost. Sure. The series composition was handled by Mayuri Sekijima, who has worked on a shit ton of stuff as well, but I'm just going to list stuff that she also worked as series composition on. Pandora Hearts, Clamp School Detectives, Angel Sanctuary, Rio Rainbow Gate, which I've heard from Tom is apparently a classic nobody knows about.
Sure.
Saber Marionette J, Skip Beat, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, the OVA one.
Oh god.
No, that's good. That was a good movie.
That is not good.
Well, it's cheesy good. The dub was bad, but in a charming way. Samurai Pizza Cat's the original version of that, of course, not whatever the dub turned it into. Soul Taker, which is a Tatsunoko property that seems to have just kind of disappeared in the past few years.
Yeah, the only reason anyone remembers it is because it was one of Akiyuki Shinbo's first shows.
Right. Tekkaman Blade, another Tatsunoko property, who I remember because I can play as him in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, and he was a pretty good character.
That one's got a bit of a cult following.
There's some Tenchi in there, mainly Tenchi in Tokyo, which
that is the worst of the Tenchi spin-offs. And that is saying something considering the state of the majority of Tenchi spin-offs.
I don't think Tenchi's that good in general, but I kind of like the low-key vibe of that one until it kind of got towards the end. I don't remember much of it, though, because I saw it as a kid on Toonami. This one I thought was interesting, the anime adaptation of the Three-Eyed One, which is a Tetsuka manga, a really famous one. If you've ever played Astro Boy Omega Factor, the Three-Eyed One is the main villain of that game.
God, I actually have that, but I never played much through it. I really need to.
I actually played an old Famicom game released based on the series, and it was really good. I wrote about it for Hardcore Gaming 101, and it should be up by now. Yeah, they put it in their game of NES, retro obscurities. It was fun. Oh, and I hate to say this because I know this show is bad and it's recent, but I don't want to remind people of this good writer's bad work, but Taboo Tattoo.
Who the hell remembers Taboo Tattoo?
I do, because I was shocked by how the animation didn't exist in it. It might actually have worse animation than this one particularly terrible mecha show I saw, like a few years back, that I remember when I first saw it, I could only stand a few seconds before I tapped out, and it looked like it was drawn in, like, it was animated like a GIF. I don't even remember the name now, because I think my brain is protecting me.
So yeah, we're dealing with a director and a head writer who are both very experienced.
And also a character designer who has only done key animation in the past.
And it shows.
Which is a shame, because I kind of like the designs of this show a little.
They're
mainly the
weirdly
faces.
old-fashioned, but they're a weird melange of styles, because they've got a modern lankiness to them, but facially they almost remind me of kind of that early 2000s Shaman King Zatch sort of flatness and angularity.
But the actual, the range of expressions reminds me more of the work of Kimura, the guy famous for Godan art and Code Geass. He's a character designer at Sunrise who's also, yes, done some porn games. Of course he has.
And then they also have those weird lines on their cheeks, which is a very 90s affectation.
I actually like that.
It's
kind of neat.
It's a weirdly retro touch.
But then again, this is a very old school sensibility show, isn't it?
Absolutely. But before we can explain why it's old school, I think we should at least attempt to explain the plot.
Yes, so Phi-Brain is the story of Kato Daimon, a would-be puzzle genius, who's only a genius at puzzles apparently, who goes to a school that seems to be obsessed with puzzles. It's not entirely clear on that, because there are people who go there who don't care about puzzles, like his best friend Nonoha Ito, who just really fucking hates puzzles. And he ends up, at the very start of the show, he's running through a maze with this guy who calls himself the Puzzle King, and he's really just some dumbass idiot. But the going through the maze, which is some sort of puzzle, nearly kills them, and it gets him interested in what's going on and trying to figure out this puzzle that seems unsolvable. He eventually figures it out and gets a magical armband called the Armband of Orpheus, and gets recruited to fight against the POC, some sort of puzzle.
No, not the POC, the POG.
Oh yeah, the POG.
Which made me laugh, because I grew up in the 90s. I remember Pogs. There is nothing threatening about Pogs.
Have you heard about Phi-Brain? Do you remember Phi-Brain? It's back in Pog form.
So yes,
I had to.
What the armband does is basically, if you get too stressed solving a puzzle, it gives you a braingasm, and then you can solve everything.
It's called the Brain Blast. This was trademarked by Jimmy Neutron. But yes, it's not so much that it lets you solve everything magically, it just puts your brain at its full capacity, like going full 10% to 90% Deathstroke brain sort of thing. And then you can solve things. The POG are basically the Illuminati, it's not subtle about it.
Puzzle Illuminati.
And we get 3 other supporting characters in the form of Gamon Sanosuke, aka Galileo. They all have code names based on famous geniuses. Who is voiced by Jun Fukuyama, who even I know who that is.
Yes, because he is everywhere. But it was hard to recognize him at first, because he's basically doing his best Mamoru Miyano impression here.
I discovered that apparently he voices the Flash in the Japanese dub for the live-action Flash TV series.
Oh wow, that's old. But yeah,
he's if you also don't know, he was Koro Sensei in Assassination Classroom, which still freaks me out. Watanuki and XX-Holic and Bloodseas. Spoilers. Lelouch Lamprogue, of course. I was surprised by this one, Cyborg 009 in the Cyborg 009 versus Devilman movie, Birthday and Hamatora, who's that shitty electric guy I love so much, and Yukio in Blue Exorcist, aka Man Pains.
See, I mostly know him as Lawrence in Spice and Wolf, so I'm used to a lot more of his quieter roles. I mean, I know he's got bigger, broader stuff in his past, like he was freaking Grell in the 2nd season of Black Butler, so this was a bit of a surprise.
I should also mention that Gamon looks suspiciously like Kazuma from S-Cry ED, who is the main another famous Sunrise show that actually got like a recap movie series a while like a year ago, I think. Maybe longer than that.
And role-wise, he's basically, you know, the big dumb sidekick you see in a lot of like shonen battle shows.
Except not necessarily dumb, just like he's not as smart as the main character when he's proven very quick he is smart. He's just like the Lancer kind of guy who's there like to point stuff out for the audience or to point out something that the other characters may have missed. Next is Cubic Gallios, aka Edison, who is a shitty little kid and my son now.
Of course, you always adopt the shitty little kids.
And he's just a genius inventor who doesn't know much about puzzles, doesn't seem to have anything to do in the series, and this just seems to be a running theme from what little I've glanced in on TV tropes when I was trying to make sure I got the name spelled right in my notes. I didn't read any spoilers, I just read ahead. It was like, he doesn't seem to have anything to do.
Yep.
And it's a shame because he gets some of the best moments in the show, like the time he just tranquilizes the main character and then kind of laughs and smiles about it. And of course there's the best character, Anagram, aka Da Vinci, who is a non-gender conforming guy who constantly makes Kato fear that he's not heterosexual.
And his codename is Da Vinci, so he's all about art and just kind of spacey and empathic.
There's one, and when the episode is introduced, there's one point he's hanging out on the street just covered in cats.
Yes.
So great character. I should point out that he's voiced by Satsuki Yukino, who I discovered actually has some really big roles, like Millie from Trigun, Kagome and Inuyasha, Mion and Shion and Higurashi, which holy shit, that one surprised me. Saki and Genshinken, let's see here, Chidori in Full Metal Panic, and Yori-Ichi in Bleach, which explains a lot. That might be why the cat thing was there. If you've never seen Bleach, Yori-Ichi is the dark-skinned lady who turns into the cat and also occasionally sexually harasses Ichigo.
Okay.
She just, it's early anime stuff. She just, like, when she gets out of her cat form, she's naked, so she just does that at one point when she goes recovering in a hot spring just to fuck with him. Which is great. So, and yeah, Anagram pretty much has the exact same role in this series, and that's to make the main character sexually uncomfortable.
He does solve things from time to time, and like I said, being the empathetic one is one usually more keen on actually figuring out people's emotions because nobody can actually talk to each other in this show.
And be fair, he also seems to actually get some backstory and stuff to do in the later seasons, unlike Cubic. So yay, important character.
Together with this gang, they fight back against the Pog by solving the Philosopher's Puzzles, which are these impossible puzzles, which they must solve or die, and at the end of them, there's a treasure.
And also, the main introduction song is amazing, and it's like some sort of weird relationship song, except the words it's all in puzzle metaphors.
Yes. Like, it's not necessarily a bad song, but it's extremely on the nose.
I love it. It's amazing. It is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and I love it. I should also mention that one of the major characters we'll be talking about later, because I don't want to get into spoilers yet, is named Rook Banjo Crossfield.
Which is such a shonen name.
Rook Banjo Crossfield. His middle name is fucking Banjo.
Look at Sunrise, they have to deal with Gundam names on the regular. Have you seen how goofy that shit gets?
Fair. Okay, where should we start with this?
Where do we start?
Because I think we've explained the main premise and all that, but I don't think we've adequately explained just how aggressively shonen this is.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is very much like your rote shonen battle tournament show. It is basically Yu-Gi-Oh! With puzzles. You gotta believe in the heart of the puzzles.
I kind of like that morality is figured out in this show by the main character looking at a puzzle and deciding if it's a good puzzle or an evil puzzle, which actually makes sense because the good puzzles don't kill people.
You can sense a person's feelings through the puzzle. This is a warm puzzle. This is a happy puzzle. This is a cold puzzle.
I kind of get it, because, like, making a puzzle is sort of like making art, when you think about it. Like, you can still get a feel for people's intentions and their emotions through their work. It's just, handled in very shonen way.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason I was kind of incredulous at first that this was supposed to be educational, because they get better at explaining the puzzles as they solve them later on, but initially it's just kind of Kaito solves it right away, and it doesn't explain how. And it's like, well, that makes him a perfectly okay shonen protagonist, but if you're supposed to be educational, it's kind of like a mystery. You have to explain how you solve it.
I should also mention the voice actors for Kaito and Nonoha before we continue. Kaito is voiced by Shintaro Azunuma, who is the voice of Alex from Street Fighter V, which is like on the complete opposite plane of existence to this character, because Alex is a big dumb wrestler musclehead guy. He was also Nishiki in Tokyo Ghoul, who is that a supporting character, the guy who wears glasses, who starts as a villain and becomes a good guy later on. He was Ken Kaido and Mocking Kaiser OVA, and he was also in Fractal. Oh.
You remember Fractal. It's your favorite.
I really hope he was not the main character of Fractal. I don't even want to get on that. Nanoha is voiced by Karari Shimizu, who is in Boogiepop Phantom and as Boogiepop. I don't know anything about Boogiepop Phantom. I'm guessing that's the Boogiepop Phantom? I don't know.
Yeah.
Lil Rooks from God Anar, which was the little girl character. She was Lan from Serial Experiments Lane, which really cool. And Akira in School Rumble, that handsome girl who may or may not be a spy.
Oh, wow. That is quite the turnaround from that character.
Yeah, everyone here has range except for Cubic's voice actor, who has voiced... The only two notable things I've noticed they voiced was Chihiro and Danganronpa, which is not that far from Cubic's character, and young Master Keaton, which surprised me.
Huh.
The kid version of Master Keaton, and I'm wondering how many people even know what that is.
Well, I do, but I am a manga nerd. Of course I would know this.
I only know because Hardy made us watch it once.
That too.
I remember the one episode where he was solving a murder, trying to prove a guy trained his dog to kill someone. That was a really good episode.
So yeah, plot-wise, there's kind of the overarching solve the puzzles and whatnot, but it starts off really quaint. Like, it's all stereotypical anime school stuff. And then it ends
the episode stretch we saw with fucking going, we have to kill them all for the puzzles.
Yes. Yeah, it kind of ramps up midway through. Basically, once Kaito gets his gang together, and they start really diving into the philosopher's puzzles and into the politics of the POG.
It's interesting. I find it interesting because the POG really is just the Illuminati, and this is about on level with how they would act, except much less subtle and much more stupid. Yes,
but also there's a secret because they're kind of sort of chairman, or at least the number 2 in the organization, who is the aforementioned Rook Banjo Crossfield. But there's a secret twist, because, oh noes, he was Kaito's best friend as a child. Betrayal! You could have never seen this coming, unless you have literally seen pretty much every other major shonen franchise you can think of.
Also, the principal of the school, Baron Kaito, is also the adoptive dad of Kaito, and he might also be in the POG, but he's not with the bad part of the POG. I don't know. Oh, and the student council president is I forgot his name, but his code name is Newton, and he's a giver of puzzles and whatever. And
he's nice. He's he's the fox-faced guy on the show where he normally smiles and keeps his eyes closed, and when they open up, he's serious. But when they reveal that he's one of these special puzzle kids and give his code name, he's literally sipping on apple juice.
Well, he's always sipping on apple juice.
And
it's the first thing we see him do.
That level of visual pun is just... You could hear me groaning from space.
Yeah. But yeah, it's basically a shonen series that each episode they have a new puzzle to deal with and a new wacky villain of the week, like the guy who works for the Department of Architecture who has set up a puzzle for them, and if they don't solve the puzzle, he'll destroy the entire city, which is what he wants, because no one will forget his name after that. Which makes a twisted kind of sense when you think about it, but not really.
Yeah, the villains are all extremely broad, and yeah, the gimmick tends to be you will solve my puzzle or you will die, because that is the purpose of this puzzle. And then
remember the little girl who was the shrine maiden who had a puzzle called the Devil's Maw?
Yes, God. Which is basically just a giant whirlpool.
I love that the second one we actually get to meet and the first actual evil one is just some guy who has made the easiest car puzzle imaginable, and he's a big sore loser and tries to kill them anyways and fails.
Yeah, that tends to be a common theme with them, because of course Kaito solves the puzzle in the end, saves the day, and they're like, no, I must stop you, and then usually the POG interferes and like, no, you can't do that, that's not allowed, you're not a giver anymore, you are kicked out of the puzzle, Illuminati.
This is Illuminati, we don't do things normal.
But later on, it's taken over by some crazy guy from the China office, and he's basically a masochist, and he's just like, I can't get off unless somebody dies in these puzzles!
Sadomasochist.
So he's usually interfering with them purposefully to try to kill Kaito because evil.
Including with grenades.
Yes.
He doesn't really last that long. Apparently he's going to come back. Apparently he's going to come back at some point, but his role is going to be really different, but I don't know much more than that. I did not look ahead.
Honestly, there was only one villain that made a real impression on me, and that was Erena, who was introduced near the end. She's basically this diva. She made a name for herself on TV with this puzzle game show that nobody can solve. But she ends up getting kind of roped into the game because, oh no, she's never had any friends. She's always had to be competitive. But now she understands the power of friendship.
Yeah, pretty much. And her backstory it's different from all the others because everyone else is like a puzzle-obsessed lunatic. And she's just like a kid who got into puzzles and it got people to notice her again. And so she considers that the foundation of who she is.
Yeah, the characters here are really stock for the most part, but she's the closest thing outside of a stereotype, which I found really intriguing. Also,
well, that and I would argue Nanoha, who is really just a normal person who's getting roped into shit she doesn't want to be a part of.
Nanoha was interesting because you think she's just going to be the tag-along token childhood best friend. And for a lot of the show she is, complete with she totally has a crush on Kaito, but she can't actually say anything, but she's gonna get super jealous.
And she's also afraid that Anna's gonna cuck her.
Yes. But she's also incredibly strong and athletic, and she's involved with all these clubs. And she's not just a damsel in distress like you think she's going to be throughout the show. She does help solve puzzles from time to time.
Yeah, she has a ridiculously good memory, and she's also the only person of this group of 5 who has any social skills.
Yes.
Which is actually really useful.
And there's a bit of a running B plot that Gatchaman kind of has a crush on her, and I kind of ship it, I'm not gonna lie.
He's not gonna get anywhere.
Oh no, of course not, he's an idiot, and he's in a shonen show. No one will ever actually get into a proper relationship.
Yeah, the stretch of episodes was interesting because we only got into like the real meat of the show at the very end of what we saw, but it was a good point to end on, I think.
Oh yes, because when it gets dramatic, oh my lord, it goes off the frickin' rails. Because at one point we
found out.
Oh god, his backstory.
Yeah, and remember, it turns out that Kaido's parents, we don't know the full details, but they died trying to solve a puzzle, probably a philosopher's puzzle. It's never explained yet.
Puzzles killed his parents.
Yeah.
That is the most ridiculous, wonderful thing. Puzzles killed his parents.
So yes, he has PTSD, but
PSTD.
And fucking Banjo instigated his PTSD attack, because this all gets revealed in the episode where they get taken to the POG testing center because they want to test him. So he creates puzzles based off of what he knows about Kaito's past, because they used to be friends and all that, and he throws in one that's basically the same one that killed his parents, and he has a fucking panic attack.
And for like an entire episode, he can't solve puzzles. Like, he has a mental block.
Yeah, because the PTSD.
But then, through the power of friendship, as always, he gets over it and he's able to solve puzzles again, and the day is saved. Hurrah.
In Game On, beating him up and calling him a loser. That too.
Yes.
It was handled about as dumb as you can imagine. And I appreciate that, because I have not seen good dumb shonen in a very long time, because ever since Naruto, I want to say, shonen is a try to get more emotional with varying degrees of success. On the scale, the best would be Blue Exorcist. The manga is fantastic, and it does a really good job at exploring all the genuinely complex emotions every character is feeling that causes them to do pretty stupid but understandable things. And on the very bottom is Letter B, which is just cry porn. A little kid cries, and that somehow does something or whatever. And that's every episode of the show. And also, the lowly character doesn't wear underwear, and that's the show.
See, for me, I don't generally get into a lot of long-running shonen just because it is so predictable and so trope-driven. Even if it's perfectly good in every other sense, it just doesn't really appeal to me. So watching this is both, one, weirdly nostalgic, but two, it skirts the line between sublime and stupid just well enough to be entertaining without facepalm-inducing.
Oh yeah, and I do like there are moments of actual emotion here that kind of work, even though they're very overplayed. Like the first puzzle we get with Anna is that he and Kaito discover that this dead painter's final puzzle was not a POG puzzle, like a life or death thing, but just it's a way for him to express his love for his wife after he died. Which was nice.
It was nice. It's kind of predictable, but it was nice.
And even the butler at the end admitted, don't worry, the gas wasn't poison. So yeah, even though it looked like it was a normal episode, by the end it was like, nope. Just a nice painter trying to say he loved his wife, and that was nice.
But then there's ridiculous stuff, like the puzzle club, where the two guys in charge of it are kind of like the gag villains that are always like, oh, curse you, Kaito. Why can't we get into the cool kids club?
They make shitty Sudoku puzzles, and that's her character.
Or the aforementioned Puzzle King, who is this big blowhard who can't solve anything to save his life.
He's like a much lamer version of I
Mr. Satan?
The name. There's a character in Bleach. He's this sort of fake exorcist, but not. He's an actual exorcist, but he doesn't know what he's doing. It's like Don something. Like I want to say Don Patchy, but that can't be right. But he's this ridiculous, overblown character who has this signature laugh where he crosses his arms against his chest and then goes ho ho ho, and there's everyone just copies it. In the first episode he's introduced, Rukia just does it for the fun of it. It was very stupid, but he's like on that level, but not as fun because this guy is just a full blown con artist, and it's not subtle about it. It's like, eh.
But then nothing is subtle about this show. And it's both why it is both silly and wonderful at the same time.
I think the only bad episode I'd say is the cross-dressing episode.
Yeah, because of course there's inevitably a school festival, because there always has to be a school festival. And of course it includes a drag contest.
And though I do appreciate that Anna won, even though she didn't enter. I mean, he didn't enter. That was the only good joke in that episode.
Yes.
And it's a weird one because that's the one where Newton's supposed to get character development and definement about why he's important, but it's in the worst episode. And I just realized that the puzzle in that episode is about apples, and that's...
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the only real groaner I had. All the others entertained me quite a bit, even the ones where the animation just completely plummeted.
Yeah, normally you expect pretty decent results from Sunrise. I mean, Sunrise is not necessarily the most spectacular studio as far as visuals, but they're usually pretty consistent. And that can be said for this show, except for episode 11. Which is a real shame because it's the other half of Erina's arc. And it's kind of the big emotional one, and wow, you can tell they really cheaped out on that one.
Well, I think the what were those? Why am I blanking on this name? Damn it. My stupid brain. The little robot she was using in the sky.
She was using like a drone.
The drones. That's how did I forget that? You can tell they were just kind of animated like that one episode of Kill la Kill, like episode 4. Where they purposely animated most of the episode bad for comedic effect, except in this case, it was not for comedic effect and they didn't mean to do it. They just did not have the money or the time, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of panning over stills, and the faces, which are already kind of wonky, really start to go off in places.
It's like being dragged across the screen like a fucking PowerPoint presentation.
Yes. And if they were doing it consciously, because the theme of the puzzles are basically on a miniature tokusatsu set, like something out of a Godzilla movie. Like,
oh, they did not.
No, like I said, if it was doing it on purpose, that would be kind of adorable. But no, this was not on purpose. This was just jank.
Oh yeah, they didn't. Something went wrong, and I think they were just saving their effort for the final 2 episodes.
Yes, for this season finale, where Kaito finally meets up with Rook again, and I actually kind of like that moment because it was the first moment where Kaito actually acted like a goddamn human being.
Yeah, Kaito's one of those characters in Shonen who's, unlike characters like Ichigo or Naruto, who are defined mainly by their empathy and their rough persona they use to get along with people, Kaito is mostly defined by being that one arrogant asshole who's really good at everything, but is still a good guy at heart, kind of. He's definitely better than like the Prince of Tennis, who was just terrible.
God.
He's nowhere near that level, but he is kind of insufferable in a way.
But yeah, when Rook shows up, like, he just lights up with a smile. He's just like, hey, how are you? Oh my god, I haven't seen you in years.
Yeah, and they're all happy, and he doesn't know that Rook is the Sosuke Aizen of this fucking show.
Yes. He's setting him up because that way you can solve even more puzzles and become the ultimate Phi-Brain and solve the puzzle of God!
Yeah, that's the Illuminati. And I do like what they're trying to do with Rook because they're implying that the reason he's the way he is now is because of a shit ton of emotional drama he went through that Kaito knew nothing about, and what goals he has left he can only get through Kaito since he's not really good at solving puzzles. He's only good at making them.
Yes, like apparently he was just basically kept in his own little prison at school, and he only knew Kaito because they would sneak out to the woods and make and solve puzzles together.
Oh, and they apparently had, there was one shared friend between them, a grown man who's being held captive by the POG, I think. It's not clear. That guy in the flashbacks that Kaito is always going on about.
Right, his guardian. Or like
not to be confused with the principal, who is also his guardian.
See, I always thought they were implying that they were like one and the same, but he didn't want Kaito to know.
No. In fact, the principal just kind of gets less important the more the series goes on, apparently.
Well, that's saying something, because most of the time he just stands up in his office and it's like, good job, Kaito.
Maybe I'm doing something important. Find out another episode. It's like watching a modern season of Doctor Who during the how do you pronounce his name?
Moffat?
Moffat, yeah, the Moffat era, where it's just like, we're implying something important will happen, but will it? Yeah, that's what the principal character feels like to me.
But he introduces just that wonderful little visual gag where Nonoha is in his office and looks over at his shelf and is like, that's a picture of Einstein on his shelf.
Yeah, and it's the famous picture of Einstein sticking out his tongue, except drawn and animated. You can see it in the title card, everyone.
It is the goofiest ass looking thing.
That was the first thing I screen capped and shared on Twitter. Oh man, that was the moment I knew I was gonna like this show. But yeah, I'm trying to let's see. I'm trying to figure out what exactly the puzzle of God is at this point, because it's not being clear. Because I understand the concept, like the idea for a lot of Illuminati stories is there's this supposed problem, or in this case puzzle, that needs to be solved to understand the entirety of life and existence. All sorts of media has played with it, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and on a more less known note, Hot Streets and Adult Swim, which has an episode where there's just a group of people trying to solve the ultimate puzzle, but doing so like destroy the Earth, and then this ridiculous series of events happens where the cop guy goes through the world-ending thing, and a bunch of hyperdelic nonsense happens, and then he comes out of it, and everyone's like, "Wow, what did you do?" And he's like, and then he just describes everything that happened within the hyperdelic sequence as it plays again, but he's just explaining the things that happened on the screen and it doesn't explain anything. And I just really like Hot Streets. It's very stupid. It was that show that got advertised on Adult Swim with that Devo song. But I'm getting distracted now. But yeah, the idea here is there's some sort of puzzle, the puzzle of God, that has to be solved. But considering the puzzles we're seeing in this show are all perfectly solvable if you just pause the screen and look at them, I'm guessing the puzzle of God is a Sudoku puzzle at this point.
The ultimate Sudoku.
It's gonna pull out 9 persons, 9 hours, 9 doors ending.
Well, hopefully they'll at least leave out the Schrodinger's cat.
Oh god, I really hope they don't go there, but they will.
But yeah, I don't know if there's much else to cover, and I think we've covered pretty much everything that happens in these 13 episodes.
I think we can talk more about single episodes in general, like, because there's a lot of just fun details we've completely glossed over, like that aforementioned architect guy in episode 3, who is possibly my favorite character in anything ever. His faces are incredible.
Yeah, he gets a bit of Higurashi face.
Yeah, and the way his glasses are used, and I just like that his plan is he wants to destroy everything he's built, because that way people will definitely remembering him in the history books instead of just remembering the city he built, which makes a disturbing kind of sense. And like I love that he just hates his job, and he first appears on top of an empty building top with his desk and a bookshelf behind him fully stacked. He's just doing work on the laptop. It's like, oh hey.
And afterwards, he goes right back into like middle management, like, oh hello, moshi moshi.
Yeah, I appreciate that he's just very chill with them at first, and then when he's explaining the puzzle, he's like, and if you don't solve the puzzle, he turns around with a weird, crazy face where he has smiling eyes. He's like, the entire city will be blown up, so good luck with that. It's fun. All the one-off villains in this show are really fun and stupid, and I love them all.
Like the Hot Springs episode, because of course there is a Hot Springs episode.
That was a weird case where there wasn't actually... villain in that one, wasn't there?
Well,
Yeah,
the villain was like...
Man.
Yes, the villain was man. Because
Industry.
They're trying to develop a wilderness into an amusement park, and Anna stops it.
I do like how he does that, though, by revealing that... So basically, the idea of this episode is that a man's, I think, father or grandfather... Grandfather, yeah. It had this piece of land that he built a bunch of puzzles on, so the guy thinks it might be the puzzle... No, he doesn't think it's Puzzle God. The Puzzle King arrives and says, "Oh, this must be the Puzzle God. I can sell it like that, and we can like make an end and make a lot of money." And then Anna reveals at the end, because he's really in tune with nature, and he's like, when they get to the prize door for solving all the puzzles, it's revealed it's supposed to be the view he saw as a kid, and he's destroyed it with his all his buildings, so he decides to stop the project, and like that was really well handled. But that's also a very goofy episode that includes a scene where a man tries to murder a child by sniping a rope bridge apart, and it almost works until Anna just comes out of nowhere on a deer and headbutts him into the trees.
I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, it's a good show sometimes. It's stupidity that like that. I also like that it still tries to give a lot of the supporting characters moments to shine, like Nonoha getting hilariously the name Nightingale, which she hates.
Yeah, because she has a friend who's like a preschool teacher, and they get trapped in a puzzle that was set up by the teacher's dead fiance, and Nanoha ends up helping to solve it while keeping the kids calm, and that's how she earns the nickname Nightingale.
Right, and Gatchaman even gets a bit of chemistry with the character I expected least for him to have any chemistry with, Elena, who he actually meets before anyone else at an arcade, and they're just in the middle of a fucking Tetris battle, trying to see who's best.
Yeah, and he thinks her bodyguards are trying to kidnap her, so he tries to spirit her away, and she's like, "Why'd you do that for?" And he's like, "Nothing." And she just thinks he's being weird instead of being gallant.
Yeah, he's the one character in who's able to talk on her level for that first episode, and I like that. I like that everyone gets a little moment, except for Cubic, whose moment is tranquilizing the guy he clearly has a crush on. An asexual crush, I must add.
He's very weirdly obsessed with Kaito in a non-pervy way.
It's like he's really into that brain.
And sticking tiny little robots on him to spy on him.
Oh yeah, he does that a lot, like the robot fly, which incidentally is something probably stolen from Bleach. But it's such a forgotten thing in that series, I'm amazed anyone would remember it if I mentioned it. But yeah, everyone, like, the supporting cast is strong. I like how goofy everything around them is. I like the villains. Some of them are just goofy as shit. Some of them are really relatable in surprising ways. There's some good little stories here and there. I'm kind of interested to see where all this goes, especially with how they're going to do 2 more seasons of this, not to mention the other one half of the season we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, that's an important point to bring up, because there are 3 full 26 episode seasons of this?
25 to 26.
Something like that. So yeah, 75 episodes or so of this.
Yeah, I actually do like a lot of these puzzles, because I can recognize, so a lot of these I actually recognize. Sudoku, obviously, I used to be big into Sudoku when I was in high school. I still play it from time to time when I'm not doing like Mahjong solitaire stuff. There's Elena's first puzzle is really, really well done. It's just a basic grid puzzle, and I like the twist she puts on it, where you can't get all the hints you need to solve it normally, so you have to use probability and all that. Some of the puzzles require knowledge of Japanese, but I do figure, but if you do know what those Japanese characters mean and pause it, I think you can figure out what they're supposed to be. Like, everything except the puzzle in episode 1 where it's just a bunch of ropes and pipes and shit. to show off how the Orpheus band works can be solved on your own, which is nice.
And yeah, initially they weren't so great at showing up, but as I mentioned, they do explain it well enough that I do think it works as an educational piece, even as just, you know, how to solve this puzzle, this building up logic skills.
I also like there. And yeah, I have to mention there's just so many little small goofy things that stick in my brain, like when they're explaining during the architect puzzle where to go next. They explain how they figured out the answer and then spell it out. P-A-R-K, park! And then the word park just appears on a black screen. Oh, that made me so happy. There's just so many goofy moments in this show like that.
So yeah, the comparison to Yu-Gi-Oh! Is actually a little more apt. In particular, like the quote-unquote season 0 of Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, before it was just a commercial.
Just get rid of all the murders.
Yeah. Because, you know, you've got somebody being possessed by an ancient artifact, and there's all sorts of different games and puzzles, and a wacky cast of friends, and
Yami just straight up murder people.
But it's got a similar sort of wacky charm to it.
I'm not sure wacky is the right way to put it, because sometimes Yami does just steal souls or steal them away or something, but other times wasn't there a puzzle where he ended up burning a guy alive? I swear that happened.
I've only read the manga, so and only the first volume of that. So
yeah, season 0 was pretty close to the original manga is the thing. So I think that did happen at one point.
Yeah, I don't recall for certain. It would not surprise me.
But yeah, this is dumb shonen kid anime, but it's the right kind. There's enough meat in it that hooks you in, that you would like to see more of these characters. But it's also incredibly stupid and silly, and has a character named Rook Banjo Crossfield.
And Sansa does bring enough of a visual flair to the show that it's not tedious to look at. It's not poorly animated, save for that one episode.
There are some great anime faces, and also a lot of just whenever Anna's around, something gay will happen. But like the Hot Scenes episode is still my favorite, just because of that one scene where he just kind of pops out of the water like he was submerged in there, and Kaito is fucking confused and in shock and looks away because like, oh no, I'm gay. And Anna, who doesn't understand even the concept of sexuality, just starts touching his back like, hey, what you doing?
And he's just flashing.
And he's just freaking out.
Let me poke your skin. Let me poke your skin.
And Nanoha is in the other in the woman's bath and just having a major, oh god, please don't steal my boyfriend moment. It's great.
But yeah, it's kind of novel to see this from the other side, because a lot of American educational animation, some shows are better than others, but it does tend to be seen as kind of a cheap thing that's more preachy than anything else. So seeing it through this very shonen tournament filter is interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, this isn't so much educational as it is just like, it's shonen with a hook, but that hook is something you could pass off educational enough to market it to kids.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, and I always like it when it does. And thankfully it doesn't go full kids anime where the designs get way too busy and it's like clearly selling toys like
Beyblade?
I don't think that not just Beyblade, all sorts of shit. I think there was a show called Spider Riders.
I have no idea.
I remember seeing that on Anime News Network when I was looking up what these people have done, and I think one of these voice actors I mentioned did a voice for something called Spider Riders. Okay.
So I think we're at the final point. Basically, would you watch more of this? Would you watch this again?
Oh, absolutely. This would be a fun thing to go back to, just in case I can't find. If it's just I'm kind of in the mood for more dumb shonen, this is what I want to go to, because I'm hesitant to actively go find more dumb shonen because most dumb shonen is terrible.
And if it doesn't start terrible, it gets terrible.
And it might be very, very sexist. this show surprisingly not that sexist.
And amazingly, Anna didn't turn into a trans joke.
Yeah, that one still surprised me. Like, it's still not great representation, obviously, but it's still miles better than your average light novel anything.
So yeah, I would not call this my favorite show by a long stretch, but it's wacky and inoffensive enough that I wouldn't object to watching more of it. And the amazing thing, this is all licensed. Sentai licensed this and put this out. You can buy this right now.
Oh, no, I feel bad about liking this because I still haven't forgiven Sentai for their god-awful dub of Ari Hamatora.
It's okay, they've moved past that point. They've figured out dubs at this point.
No, I mean, like, Ari Hamatora was one of the best shows I saw the year it came out, and Sentai treated it like it was Ghost Stories.
I don't know, I haven't seen that one.
I would say, check it, you know what, you haven't seen it, you don't know anything about it. If you want to try the Hamatora series, you just pick it for an episode, and we can start with the first season. I won't spoil anything. But hey, whatever you want to pick.
But yeah, for our first blind bag anime selection, well, we actually did pretty well.
Yeah, this one was fun. Let's see, so this one is on the docket if I ever want to go back to it. What did you pick out for our next episode?
Oh, I'll let that be a little bit of a Valentine's Day surprise. All I'll let you know is that it's a reverse harem. And I promise you it is probably not going to be garbage.
Could you at least name it so our audience knows what it is?
I have to look it up.
Do it, Herschel. I need puzzles.
Yes, master.
Hanasakaru Seishonen.
I have no idea what that is.
Neither do I, but we'll find out next time.
That's it for this episode of the Blind Anime Binge, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Hopefully it's a solid replacement for Heavy Storms. We will eventually find bad stuff, I'm sure of that, so don't worry. You will hear me rage eventually. But for now, that's it. How should we end this?
And I promise this time I will not kill off the podcast with a bad shoujo series.
Okay, we'll end there.
Oh no, Professor, that cat's about to eat that poor mouse. We should do something.
Aw, jeez.
You know, Luke, this reminds me of a puzzle.
What? No, Professor, this isn't the time for a puzzle. We have to stop the cat from eating that mouse.
Now, Luke, there's always time for a good puzzle. Your dog will have to wait.
Professor!
Luke, listen to my puzzle!